this video, we're going to talk a little bit if AdWords display is for you and your product or service, okay? Because it's really important to know, is it for your product or service? But not only that, is it for you? Because I will tell you this, display is a lot different than search, and it's a whole different mindset that you have to have, okay? Now let's first talk about and decide if display is for your product. Now, you need to ask yourself a couple of questions. First of all, is my product niche specific or mass market? In other words, are you selling lug nuts for a 1969 Ford Mustang, right? I mean, it needs to be something that has a mass market appeal. Now, I'm not saying that no niche specific product will work, because even some specific niche specific products will actually cover a large range of people. And not only that, there's many places you can somewhat laser target it, but for the most part, it's really meant for mass market, okay? And the second question you need to ask yourself is, does your product solve a large problem? Now, like I said, some niche specific products can solve a large problem, okay? So you really need to ask yourself both these questions. And then another question you need to ask yourself, if you determine that, hey, you fit into at least one of these two areas, you need to ask yourself, how optimized is my funnel? Because if you're just starting out and you have no idea if your product even sells, display is definitely not for you. You need to make sure that you have everything optimized from front to back and have at least maximized on search, or maximized even if you've been on, say, Facebook or another advertising medium. Make sure that you've optimized your funnel to the point of where you feel comfortable that you can launch on display and get massive traffic and be in good shape when it comes to advertising on that specific network, okay? Now also, another important question you need to ask yourself is, do I have solid split test systems in place? Okay, because the last thing you want to do is start on display and know that it's a different traffic medium than you're used to and that you know, and absolutely have nothing in place to test and get better as the traffic comes in. So that, in my opinion, is something you really need to have in place, is a solid split test system through your funnel, okay? And also, do I have the resources to create ads quickly? So as display is running, it's a lot different than search, where with search you could kind of pause and restart without too much of a problem. But on display, you just can't pause and wait for ads and then unpause and upload new ads. And I mean, when things are running, it's like picture a train that's got a built up momentum, and when you pause, that train has to go uphill, and then everything just comes to a screeching halt. You have to build momentum to keep that train moving, and that's the way display works. Okay. Also, you need to ask yourself, do I have enough resources for larger budgets? If you're coming into this with, $10 a day budget, I would highly recommend you not start on display. Okay, you're not ready for it. Is there a specific dollar amount you need to have to go onto display? No, it will vary, it'll vary greatly between verticals and depending on what type of product or service you have. But really, in my opinion, a $10 budget, and I know this for a fact, is not going to cut it on display. Because what's going to happen is there's so much traffic available that the system is going to be constantly starting and stopping. And like I said, display is one of these areas that it has massive traffic and needs momentum to work properly. With a smaller budget, it's going to be very difficult for you to do that. So, if you answered yes to all of the questions, okay, and even if you have a niche specific product that is solving a large problem, you still qualify. But if you answered yes, then let's say your product and business is definitely ready for display, okay? But now for the big question. It's more than just your product or service, okay? You need to decide if the display network is for you. You're going to have to really change your way of thinking, because you have less control than you would have over a search campaign. And you're constantly going to feel like you're trying to rein it in, because that's just the way display works. There's going to be horrible days, there's going to be great days until you finally get everything tightened in where you need it. So you're constantly going to feel like you're holding back a race car, okay? And because of that, you need to have patience, okay? You need to make a decision, make a change, and then monitor it and let it sit for a while and have patience and not make an emotional mistake by making a wrong decision with a setting, okay? So you need patience, okay? And on display, I'll say this, it's more of what you should not do than what you should do, okay? And we're going to talk about that next.